Oh, did you? Yeah. I don't think the cover behind you. Those are long seconds.
All right.
I'm not hearing it.
W-
I'm hearing something.
Welcome.
Can we hear them?
Kelly, Peter, can you hear us?
No. Can we hear them?
Okay, so I can hear Kelly, but I cannot, or I mean, she can hear me, it looks like, but I can't hear her.
Right.
My audio's on.
Look, it's always something, isn't it? Okay. So, we can't hear, Tom's on now.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can
There
you
we
hear
go.
me?
Good.
Good.
Okay. Great. We'll go ahead and call to order the March 19th regular meeting of the Aspen Pitkin County Housing Authority. First item on the agenda is the roll call.
Okay, I'll start online. Peter? He's not. Did he say here?
He's muted.
He's not hearing me.
Kelly?
I'm here.
Here comes Peter.
John?
Here.
Carson?
Here.
Ward?
Here.
And Scott?
Here's Peter.
Okay.
Okay, great. Any agenda amendments? Hearing none, we'll move to public comment. And we'll start here in the room. If there's anybody that has, is there anyone here to make public comment?
Come up here.
Great.
You state your name.
Hi, I'm Denise Deers, and I just want to say good afternoon. And so I don't forget at the end, I want to thank you all for your time and consideration. And I also want to thank Matthew and his staff, Maddie, because they were very helpful in the initial stages. But I'm here to ask for the board's input and review of one of my 20-year clients for inclusion as work history in Pitkin County. And a little about myself. I'm a 38-year resident, obviously not 38 years old. I've lived here more than half my life. Full-time, of which the last 36 years I've worked for my housing as a caretaker, and the last 40 years with the same family. As we know, dynamics change, and the adult children don't seem to like us around anymore, so I've been officially terminated and have to vacate my caretaking unit by May. I've been looking since December for affordable housing for me between here and Carbondale, because if I have to move all the way to Glenwood, I'm gonna leave the valley because my whole life has been in Aspen. I don't drive very far, I walk, I volunteer here. I'm a longtime Elk member, and so to move all the way to Glenwood is like starting over, and I need to evaluate if that's where I want to start over. So other volunteer activities besides the Elks, and the Elks, you know, I have volunteered for the youth activities, the Disabled Veteran Sports Week. I have volunteered for, I'm on their sustainability committee. And I've also volunteered in the past, and I don't know how many of you will remember it, the Aspen Women's Forum. And I was an officer and a board, and it was very active when I moved here in the 80s. I've also volunteered for GrassRoots Aspen Experience and was responsible for connecting them to the NFL Players Association, who came in and did some benefit activities. They called it the First Downhill. And brought Carl, connected them with Carl Mecklenburg through my friends that were attorneys with the Players Association. I also now volunteer for the Wheeler Theater Aspen District Theater and look for other opportunities. So I'm a long-time active community member and would like to continue to do so, be so. I've worked for the Ski Co on various projects since I moved here. The last being, not for over 10 years, but the last being I taught skiing part-time for 10 years. I became self-employed in 1992 when I got laid off as an accountant and consultant. And when things became intolerable with my caretaking situation last summer, I approached APCHA in December and met with Maddie and went through and didn't complete the application process because she told me at that time they would not accept any of my time with Basalt Sanitation District. Now, that's a special district. 2/3 of its customers are Pitkin County taxpayers and property owners. So to me, that, because it's not a private enterprise, it's not-for-profit, nothing like that, it's specifically serving Pitkin County taxpayers, I believe that that should be reviewed and included in my work history. And also because of economies of scale, we had a part-time office manager, myself that did finance and accounting, and the plant operator. That was the staff, and it serviced 2/3 Pitkin County and 1/3 of their customers was Eagle County. So to me, that's a Pitkin County taxpayer service and no different than any other government entity. It just happens to be that their office moved from Pitkin County when they lost their lease. And on my financial advice, they bought a unit across the river, not knowing it would hang me now. So I would like to have that reviewed, and I've talked with Matthew. I'm in the process of completing the application, and a lot of it's somewhat onerous with, and trying to determine, because I didn't get paid as a caretaker, but and I was engaged when they were in Pitkin County. My office is in Aspen half my garage. So I'm based here 100%. I did go down there occasionally to work, but for the most part, I provided my services to what I say, Pitkin County taxpayers for those 20 years. Yeah, if you look at the breakdown, I called the assessor's offices today or yesterday, and Pitkin County told me there were 918 property owners in Pitkin County in the Basalt Sanitation District. And Eagles was a little more convoluted, but they said they had, eliminating the personal property, they had 496. So 2/3 are Pitkin County. And you know, you can't serve Pitkin without also serving Eagle, because I did it all. So that's, I know I'm scattered, I'm not good at present, and I didn't have time to practice this. But is there any more information you would like? Otherwise, I'm going to finish the application process and see if we can appeal the denial of the Basalt Sanitation work history, because they have been my biggest client. And I can go through and look at, you know, what Maddie told me. I need to look back at what market rent was 10 years, the last 10 years, compared to what I paid, and the difference would be my caretaking income. And then you would calculate the hours based on minimum wage, I think she said. So I don't know where to find that information, but this was a lot of the deterrent to finish it, because I thought, well, I can find a place to live, but I can't, you know, and I don't even know where I'm gonna move to. So, anyway, any questions?
What are you asking for?
I'm asking for the board to
Consider your work history in Basalt Sanitation District.
the
I
Basalt-
understand that, but are you asking for a rental unit?
It will be for a rental unit,
Okay, and a one-bedroom or studio?
preferably 1 bedroom, but studio,
Okay.
you know.
And how long was the office for the Basalt Sand District in Pitkin County? You said it moved across the river and,
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I got less than half of my work history there. I'm trying to remember when they lost their lease in the Stubby's building, which wasn't a bad thing, because we would go to the office and there'd be barf outside, and the poor office manager would be cleaning it up.
good to know.
So I know that they bought their office across the river in, I believe it was 2005. And I was there 20 years, and I've been gone 2 years from that work.
And What
So-
category would you fit into for rental?
Probably category 2.
Or is Truscott,
This is something that we have to look at. We can't tell anybody what category or anything until we get all the paperwork and stuff.
Right.
And we look at everything. I don't think she has returned anything
No,
in
it
yet
did-
for us to even
So
review.
has this been denied?
No.
Right.
No,
No.
because
So-
we don't have the paperwork.
Okay.
No.
And I
Okay.
explained to Denise, when we had that conversation with Denise, we said,
Right.
it seems as if you wouldn't qualify, but you're welcome to complete the application. And then I said, and if indeed you are denied, there is
Right.
the appeal process through the hearing officer.
So at this point, there's really nothing for the board to do
No.
because,
So we're working
nothing
with
has
Denise
been
for a
decided.
complete
Okay.
application, and we'll evaluate it
okay,
per the regulations.
And, as a self-employed person who's always overwhelmed, I work for everybody else and I just, I take care of everybody but me. But anyway, the application process and all the information that you're asking for a self-employed person for 10 years back or 20, I've been here 30 years, but I thought I'd be at the top of the list until now. So is fairly onerous. And so it's, when they told me that my major client, which was Basalt Sanitation District, and after COVID, we lost the plant operator, we lost the legal counsel, and I lost my assistant. So I was the last man standing to do everything for almost a year. And so my other business had to go by the wayside because I couldn't do it all, because I'd be down there till 2 and 3 in the morning and looking at the sunrise, handing out board packages at one time and budgets. So just looking at all the time I spent there, if that was not going to be counted at all, the onerous application requirements made me decide not to move forward. But say on Scott's recommendation, a previous councilman's recommendation, they said you need to go before the board and see what they think. And then Matthew said you need to put the application in. So I'm in the middle of tax season, but I'm gonna get the application in as soon as I can put it all together. I also, the little caveat that during Mayor's Squirm Night, Rachel made the statement, and she's our mayor-elect, that all residents who have been here and been contributing and living here for 40 years should be able to stay here.
Right.
And she was addressing employee housing. So I'm hoping that there is some wiggle room and it's not as black and white as where the physical office of that district was, because the district provided specific services to the Pitkin County taxpayers.
Kelly?
Thanks. This question is for staff. I guess I'd love a little clarity around sort of analogous treatment of, the multiple districts that we have that cross boundaries. So like RAFTA employees or like Roaring Fork Fire and Rescue. Like, what does that look like?
It has been where the office has been working, for example, which office they work out of. For example, during Building Game 3, when we were talking to RAFTA, some of their workers were based out of a office, the main terminal, which is inside the urban growth boundary, so they were eligible for BG3 properties, and some of them were based elsewhere, and they were not. So it has been based on where the office is located.
What do we do for a ski company?
We've had discussions with ski companies, exact same conversations. Some of them work in Pitkin County and some of them don't. And some of them are eligible and some of them are not.
My only thought here is that as the economic reality of our community continues to develop and commercial spaces are increasingly inaccessible even to businesses in our community, that this is something that we're going to need to address, because offices are going to be pushed out just as residents are being pushed out. And so I don't know, but this obviously isn't a direction to staff because we need to see the application first. However, I think that there is room here for us as a board to kind of direct APCHA to find a solution for these people who are maybe getting pushed out, whether it's a business office or a resident. And so
Well, so we're sort of bleeding into time here. We're well past the.
My 3 minutes, I know.
Yeah. So let's.
you.
So thank you, Denise, for the comments. It sounds like we've got staff is going to work on your application, and then sort of I guess depending upon the outcome of that with staff, then there could potentially be something for the board to review. But at this point. Yeah, I think we have to just sort of follow the existing process that is currently in place.
Okay, so I was hoping for a little hope before I spend days and days and days on an application. I've got 80% of the application done. I just didn't know I had to log all my work time.
Denise, thank you for coming before us. I think the board's really tasked with, in a priority, it's 100% compliance. So what that means, and Carson's saying, is that you have to do we have to go through the policy and the procedures and protocols that are in place. Bylaws can be changed, but we have to know what our challenges are. So if there's an issue that your application raises, maybe you can look at a way to shoehorn you in somehow, but I think the first thing for you to do is finish your application and go through the protocols.
Okay, I can do that. That's not a problem. Sleep is not my friend, so that's where I do all these things. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise.
And we'll be in touch, Matthew.
Is there anyone else with public comment? Please come on up.
My name is Peggy Briscoe, and I'm here to appeal my case. And excuse me, I'm not used to public speaking, so I'm going to read from my notes. Since 1998, I have been an independent contractor in the real estate business. I also lived and worked in Aspen 4 years previously in the late 70s and early 80s as a real estate broker and a freelance designer. My income is commission-based, as everyone knows that realtors work very long, hard hours, which often does not result in closings. I worked on very large development projects that were not on the market, did excessive amount of research, such as the residences at Little Mill. I work full-time beyond the 1,500 hours required for employee housing. As far as income per year, I supplemented my real estate income for 3 years by working in 2 long-time galleries in downtown Aspen. There were 2 years that I had received commission advances because of the multiple contracts and clients I was working with. So, and this was obviously presented to the real estate office, and my commission advances from the company were not reported on my 1099 until I paid back the advances. So then it was reported on the 1099s. I have copies of the checks for verification that I was working, that I was being paid, actually paid. I raised 2 children as a single mother in Aspen. My son was an IB valedictorian in his class, graduated from MIT. He then served 8 years in the Army as a captain and planned the largest operation in Afghanistan. Excuse me. My daughter graduated as an IB student and graduated from Parsons and was a fashion designer. And she moved back to Aspen, and she and her now fiance were fortunate to purchase employee housing just this last year. I have dedicated time and effort to the Elks, worked as chair of the Veterans Committee, and to help with all the veterans in the Valley, as well as participated with other organizations. And I have been living in an ADU unit for 8 years. Until now, they want to renovate the unit. And this, I checked with the city, and it's actually registered with the city as an ADU. And I do know some past board members that have known me, one since the 70s and others with all my efforts at the Elks. And I am, in conclusion, I feel I'm deserving to be a candidate for employee housing.
My bad.
And I'm sorry for my phone. I turned the volume down, didn't realize it would ring.
It's okay, he covered for you. Well, thank you for coming in, Peggy. Are you finished with your comments?
Yes, thank you.
And so, just to be clear, this isn't part of the appeal process. Have you filed paperwork to go through the appeals process?
I had actually filed my W-2s and also my 1099s. I was not allowed to put all my other paperwork, but I was just appealing actually a letter that I had received where it was questioning those 2 years. As I said, and I can prove by checks, I can show anything and all the contracts I wrote that year, or the majority of them, and I can show a lot of information, spend a lot of time compiling it.
Okay.
But that was not looked at.
So Matthew, has this one been decided by
Yeah,
staff?
I wrote to Peggy on March 12th, and I said, thank you for your efforts providing checks and additional information related to your work history and clarification regarding your W-2 forms. The application stipulate, quote, all applications must verify income earned in Pitkin County by submitting copies of filed federal and state income tax returns, including all schedules, W-2 and 1099s. If income is not reflected on these official documents, it is not considered. APCHA does not accept employer letters or other forms of documentation to verify income, as we are a taxpayer subsidized housing program, and only income declared on filed tax forms is eligible for consideration. Based on your filed income tax returns, you have not demonstrated your continued compliance with APCHA regulations, and we are not able to renew your qualification. So if Ms. Briscoe would like to appeal that, she can follow the procedures for the hearing officer, and the hearing officer would make the determination, and then ultimately may end up in front of the board for a for that. So that's the next step for you, Ms. Peggy, would be, if you would like to appeal the decision, would to be follow the regulations for the hearing officer to look at your case.
Okay, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Sorry I get nervous public speaking.
You did a great job. Thank
Great
you.
job, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else with public comment? If online, if you would just unmute yourself, it doesn't look like it. Hearing no further public comment, we will close public comment and move to Board of Directors comments, and I will start with Kelly.
I don't have any comments at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Peter?
Except to remind people to vote.
Very important. Peter?
I have no comments today. Thank you.
Thank you. John Doyle?
Sure, I'll second what Kelly said. There's an election April 1st. Don't forget to vote.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, I do have some comments. So, unfortunately, I'm not in the runoff for the election that we're referring to, but that's okay. I remain dedicated to our community. What I do want to mention is the unending amount of calls that I received from people who can no longer live in our community. From people that I grew up with, family members, friends, business associates, my ex-employers, and all of those people who said, man, I wish I could participate. And I think that our two public comments today kind of speak to that. I should be 100% transparent. When I was in high school, I shoveled snow at Denise Deer's property where she was taking care of that property. And I grew up with Britta Briscoe, Peggy's daughter. So these are two longtime community members who have held on strong in our community through all of this time. And I know that we are dedicated to being transparent and by the letter of the law. I just hope that we as an organization can also adapt as the context of our community continues to adapt. I know that there are very loud voices in our community who see us as an agent of the economic context of our community, but I would say that largely we are, in fact, standing in the face of those economic contexts. And that the original kind of idea of founding APCHA was to oversee affordable housing for persons of low, moderate, and middle income. And to do that in a community like Aspen, when the numbers are what they are, is increasingly difficult. And so I hope that our discussion today about our strategic plan, about the language of our guiding mission and vision can help reflect some of these concerns that I've heard from voters that are no longer here and those of us in the community who are standing strong and trying to continue to serve. So I'm grateful for you guys to come in to make the public comment. I hope that we see more public comment. And I'm just really, really excited that we as a board have the opportunity to be in this position in such a changing time, and I hope that we can adapt accordingly.
Thanks, Scott. Ward?
It is important that people vote and to retain the fabric and the soul of Aspen.
Oh my God, we got
Again.
hacked again.
Again.
I just saw something up here that said security, and I don't know what it was.
So we're gonna have to get back on.
I guess that's public
I
access,
hope-
Zoom.
Yeah, it's happened one other
It's
time.
happened, it's
It
happened.
happened,
once
it's happened
before.
once before.
Is there any, when it happened the last time, did we do anything to?
I think
We got out and we got back in.
Yeah.
There's something,
They
if
mentioned-
anybody,
mentioned it to the county who run it,
anybody's
but
IT related, there's a security thing that was up there. I don't know if it's gonna show up again. When we get back in.
So the last time, what was the vector that they got in? Was it just a Zoom
I admitted them.
client?
It's,
Okay, so
well, it's public, I mean, it's public.
gotta let people in.
It's public
Yeah.
Zoom
You
information.
let somebody in and they hack you.
Just like this. You let somebody in and they.
That's the
go.
thanks you get.
Yeah.
But there was a little exclamation point that I read thing,
What?
and I published it.
Here?
She's right behind you.
Zoom, when the Zoom comes up.
Well, I think for now, all they can do is go in and out.
Do you have public comment, or?
No, I just need a document for her to sign.
No.
Sorry to interrupt.
Is there a way for you to?
Subpoena?
What?
Is she getting subpoenaed or what? Just kidding.
No.
Yeah.
There's a button on, done it before, there's a town manager.
That was exciting.
Mimi's yoga class got
Oh, can I add
hacked
a comment,
once.
actually?
Really? Sure. Was it a similar vulgar video?
I think so, yeah.
Huh.
So I'm not gonna allow any public comment anymore,
Unless,
unless I see their name.
yeah.
What's Don Taylor, when Don left the.
Yeah, I think
Quick
that that's a good
reactions, Karen.
idea.
You can let
Very
Tom
good.
That
in.
was very
Very
good.
good, Karen.
That was very
Very
fast.
good.
My first rodeo.
Good job.
Recording in
Good
progress.
job, Karen.
Zach, was she in before?
Yeah.
Maybe she did it.
My first
Yeah.
reaction was, look, more public comment.
It's a passionate public comment.
That's what somebody thinks about our public comment? Oh. Hate that when that happens. It's just,
For
I'm
adults.
good it's been twice and that's it.
So what is it, a kid having fun? Like, what's the outcome of that?
We've actually,
Is
you know
Tom
what,
on?
it's been, that's the third time.
Did Tom get on?
That's the third time.
I remember,
There was one that was just like talking, and then there was one that was video.
That was wild.
That was even worse than this one.
That was worse,
But
yes.
the multiple phone-ins where they were
Yeah.
doing anti, yeah.
That was me, sorry.
I don't know who Destiny is, and that was the last person who came in.
Destiny A was the person who was that window. So do
I'm
not
gonna
admit
vote
her.
That person.
That is not our destiny.
Not our Destiny.
Dad jokes.
Sorry, John.
It was
Don't
softball.
Okay.
My
right
security
there.
is now green.
All right, we're back now. Okay,
It's okay, good to know.
so,
They're my comments.
Ward,
I don't know where we were interrupted, but I'm just
vote. You're
wanted to
voting.
say that people to retain the fabric and soul of our community, to vote for people that you think will uphold your values in this town. And I would also like to thank staff and board members. This is my last meeting on APCHA, and I hope John's on next time around, but I will not be, so thank you.
Will be missed.
John, you had a comment?
Yeah, thanks for letting me butt back in. I did want to say that I've been knocking on doors. That's not the important part. The important part, well, I have been knocking on doors. I have seen a lot of new employee housing units that I'd never seen before, and we should be really proud of all the amazing housing stock we have. It is truly impressive.
You're here.
Thanks. Ward, thanks for all your service on council, and to the APCHA board. Certainly have appreciated the time working with you and conversations and the incredible pictures that you've taken and given to me. We'll certainly miss you and hope it's not the last one that you come to. So maybe we'll see you on the other side of the table here.
Perhaps.
With that, I also just wanted to call attention. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal on Monday. I don't know if anybody saw that, but it was talking about the blacklist that's maintained by Freddie and Fannie, just with regards to financing of properties, and specifically what's happening with a lot of properties. As we know, right, we've seen insurance costs within HOAs continue to climb and eat into a larger chunk of that annual budget. But what this was specifically talking about, and it specifically called out Colorado, California, Colorado, Hawaii, and I think maybe Arizona, there was a fourth. But there are a growing number of properties where you've got aging properties with deferred maintenance. Well, we clearly know we have some of those, where insurance companies are given locations, fire danger. We know we're in a fire danger area, where insurance companies are not offering full replacement cost on properties, and they're doing that because you have properties that have deferred maintenance. And so what is happening is you're ending up with entire associations that are effectively they're not financeable because they end up on this blacklist because the insurance, they can't get the insurance, which then prevents them from getting financing. So just sort of wanted to call attention to that. I mean, I think that is a very, very real issue. The list is supposedly going to be made public. It is not currently public, but I think that is something that, at a minimum, we should be communicating with the HOAs that it is a potential consequence that could come as a result of some of this deferred maintenance, and then could regardless of deferred maintenance, could be an issue that could affect the financing and therefore the saleability of a lot of the units within the system. So just wanted to point that out. So I see that as a critical. The insurance issue alone is a critical issue, just given that we've seen emails from people that insurance continues to grow and grow and grow and eat bigger chunks of budgets, and then resulting higher HOA dues. So just wanted to point that out to everyone, that I think that is an issue that we really need to be paying attention to, and as I said, as a minimum, need to make sure that that HOAs are aware of that potential issue, because it's coming. So all right, with that, don't have any further comments.
Carson, could we keep the board on being included in that? There was an insurance or fire board that John Ward had mentioned, and was brought to our attention last meeting, I think, with Dennis Murray, and some of those insurance costs for APCHA to be included in that discussion or that presentation.
That's a good point. Good point.
It was Florida with 1,400.
Yeah, Florida, that's right. So Florida, California, Colorado, and Hawaii.
Florida, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Texas, Georgia, New Jersey, South Carolina,
Yeah.
Illinois, New York.
Yeah.
So it's a growing problem. like
It's
you
a
said.
growing problem, and I mean, we've certainly got the wildfire danger. We've certainly got properties with deferred capital maintenance.
That's right.
It's only a matter of time before it comes here.
And we have an insurance industry that's hitting headwinds. as
Well,
we
and
speak.
we've seen some properties here be on the blacklist for other reasons, right? So this is just sort of another reason, another thing that could be coming
It
up.
does seem like most of those states are southern tier states that are more susceptible to hurricanes and severe weather events. So I wonder why Colorado is on
Fire.
that list. Fire.
Fire.
Yeah, the increased risk of
Boom.
fire.
Okay, good suggestion. Matthew.
Good evening, everyone. Matthew Gillen, Executive Director. We had a good chat with our HOA lawyer down on the Front Range, Molly Foley-Healy, who was out here last year. We're going to try and get her out here 3 times before winter. She doesn't like coming up here in the winter. So, and the first one, we're going to be talking about HOA insurance. So she's going to get a good overview of that, and we have some other ideas.
And this
Have-
is gonna be like a forum for.
Yeah, like a lunch and learn, and we're also going to see if we can, if she'd be willing to do 15-minute appointments with HOAs as well. And so we're trying to get more use out of her.
I don't know what the legality is on emailing out Wall Street Journal articles,
I think it's fine.
but I mean, this article, I mean, as a condo board member.
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't want to hear about it. Yeah.
It should scare you, because I mean, you could potentially not have insurance. You could potentially not be able to sell your.
Right.
If nobody can finance
Right.
the buyer,
Right.
who are you going to sell to?
You're screwed.
Cash buyers, and that's.
I'm sure I could find it. You want to shoot me?
I've
you
got
sh-
it.
You shoot it to me, and I'll.
I can send.
We'll
I mean,
get
I
that,
can send
yeah.
it to you.
That'd be
I
great.
just don't know if.
Molly's gonna bring some of that stuff up.
Yeah.
She's also bringing an insurance agent from down there that
Okay.
covers, that covers a lot of HOAs, even HOAs up here. And we're also going to include hopefully somebody from the fire district that can come and talk
Yeah.
about what people can do to make things safer around their places and stuff
I
as
think that
well.
would be well attended.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the first of hopefully 3 sessions, and we're going to try and make better use of Molly.
Excellent.
We had an informal lunch with Tom Downey, the new hearing officer. Wait, Tom Snyder, the new hearing officer. Sorry. We were Tom Snyder, and we've worked on some good stuff with the procedures with him. We were scheduled to do some coffee hours in March. Those have been postponed. 'Cause I don't know if you've heard, but the actual APCHA office is, we've had some emergency construction due to needing a roof replaced and some asbestos remediation, which is currently underway. So we've been working remotely this week, and we're only doing it by appointment the weeks before that. So we haven't set a new date for those coffee hours, but we'll get those going as quickly as we can. And also just to shout out to some of the APCHA staff, particularly Nicole. Nicole found a space over at ACI, so we've cleared a office out there, so we've been able to meet clients at ACI as well. So we're trying to set that up as kind of a satellite office, which is great. The affidavit, it's an affidavit year, and we will be sending that out imminently, like either this week or next week, and we'll be asking for some W-2s and tax returns on that to increase our compliance. But we'll be very friendly about it, and we'll gradually get a little meaner until we get everybody to comply. But that'll be going out next week. And I just want to flag the next couple meetings. We're going to be looking at regulations. We have the reorganization of the regulations, and then also some topics which the board has brought up in the past year or so, seeing if you want to put those into the new regulation. So that will actually take up the next 3 meetings. We really want to get them done in one fell swoop swoop. So April 16th, we'll discuss them, get feedback from the board on if you want to pursue all of them, if there are some you don't want to talk about, and then we'll do the first and second readings on the 2 meetings in May. That's all I have.
Okay, Cindy?
I'm not sure we have any new rentals up right now, but we do have a couple of ownership units or sales units that will be coming up. One will be it's an RO unit in the Obermeyer building. It is a 2-bedroom unit. The value of that is a little over $800,000, so it really is an RO unit. But we have a Centennial coming up. We have, and Annie Mitchell coming up. So we've got some units coming up. So whatever you do, sign up for notifications on our website.
Great. Good to hear. Okay, we'll move to consent calendar. 1 item, minutes of February 5th, 2025, regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Motion from Ward.
I will second with a request for just correcting my name spelling and no hyphen.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Second from Kelly with the proposed corrections. Any further discussion or corrections? All right, hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Okay. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes. Okay, motion passes, and move to the discussion on the strategic plan.
Is John on?
John's there.
Oh,
He's here.
He's
I walked right by him.
Have mystery
Go
going on.
on, he's here.
He's so small. He was hiding out there. He's been
Lord, what are you talking about?
As he gets bigger.
Strategizing.
Let me go put on my puffy jacket. We'll start this conversation over. All right. Well, good afternoon, folks. I hope everyone's doing well. John Doherty, your consultant, guiding you through this process of your next 5-year strategic plan. You received the draft version in the packet. So we'll talk through this a little bit today to just make sure that the language reflects how you felt we left that session together. But I thought I would take a moment before we dive into that specific language to just acknowledge and call out, one, how grateful I am to be a part of the process and appreciative that I was able to support you in this process, but also to really acknowledge that this was a brand new process for all of you. And I think it's important to note that it has come up in different conversations along the way. But I do believe it is an acknowledgement of hearing from the community in the past that they want to be more involved as the citizens who are impacted by the decisions that are made with this board in informing the strategies and the goals that direct your work and help you focus your work. So congratulations on doing that. And I think everyone did a really great job in the process. Certainly want to acknowledge APCHA it's a complex system, and it is a complex system in that you have to meet a variety of needs of different community members who are part of the workforce community, but your role in acknowledging your role is setting policy and enforcing that policy in a way that protects the valuable asset that it is. And so sometimes you're faced with the challenges of individual experiences, and you have to sort of zoom out as a board through this strategic planning process to make sure that it is able to address the holistic needs of the community. And I think you all did a really great job on that. This was the first time that you did a community survey to inform the strategic plan. It's the first time you did community feedback sessions to allow people to react to the first draft of the strategic plan. And I can say confidently, I think Francie's online.
No.
She isn't. Well, I'll just say it since Francie isn't here. I think confidently that you all worked really hard up at Toklot for 4 hours in wordsmithing a way to make sure you captured in the actual documents that came out of those community feedback sessions, and then helped work through how does this show up against our policy obligations and the goals and responsibilities we have as an institution. So kudos to that as well. I think it's important to just acknowledge that this was a different process for you all, and I thought folks were tremendously engaged in challenging what we read, thinking through it, and then coming up with something that I think speaks clearly to where you want to go and focus your work. There were some great lessons learned in the process of engaging the community, and I think we want to acknowledge that. Matthew has already acknowledged ways that we have recognized questions that came up in the survey or questions that came up in the feedback sessions that are misunderstandings or misinterpretations. And so we identified some specific strategies, and I think it's highlighted in the board packet that this month's communication out to the community is specifically responding to maybe misunderstandings or miscommunications that we learned about and addressing those head on and helping to correct that information, but also in the strategic plan itself, that you put in some specific strategies to help get on the front side of that by instituting new ways to connect with people who are applying and making sure that they feel informed and educated about APCHA before they start the process, so they know what they're getting into and are fully informed. So I thought those were a couple of really great things that are happening. We also realized that maybe some community members were not aware of things that were already happening, like the investment of the board to hire a community engagement person, or like the sessions online where you can hear from Matthew and get updates, or the monthly communications that are coming out in response to and trying to do the best you can to keep the community informed. And I think that was another important lesson we learned, is there's a lot of good work happening. It's a large system. It's an imperfect system. This was an imperfect process, but it was forward progress, I think, on all fronts, and I think we were able to highlight that. Few highlights, just to remind you. So we did update and refine the mission and the vision statement to make them a little more focused, a little more clear about who we are, what we're all about, and what our responsibilities are. So they're a little more condensed, a little more straightforward. You narrowed those statements to around the values so you decreased the overall number of value statements, and then really responded to the feedback we got from the community, incorporating that language into how you defined your values in action. I think this is a really important piece to just keep in mind, because this is the opportunity to highlight how you make decisions going forward, how you prioritize where you're going to focus your energy and your resources going forward should always tie back to these value statements. And so you spent a good amount of time putting definition around those. And I will say confidently that those words came from the direct feedback from the community sessions. And I should call out, I've mentioned the community sessions. Scott was at both of those community sessions, so board member hearing directly. We had multiple APCHA staff who just listened and took the opportunity to hear from people in those sessions directly. And I think, again, a whole different approach to this work. We achieved our goal going into this. We said we wanted to shoot for no more than 5 goals with no more than 3 strategies. We ended up at 4 goals, or 3 strategies per goal, so a total of 15 strategies. We ended up at 4 critical goal areas with 11 specific strategies. And again, these we can tie back directly to the feedback from the surveys, from the community feedback, and then the thoughtful deliberation of the board around how does this show up in our role and responsibility. And then lastly, when you look at those strategies, a real focus on things that were specific and measurable that I think the community should feel good about, in terms of knowing that they're all items that you can come back to and say, are we making progress? And they're things that APCHA as an organization can look at from a staff side to say, what tools do we have to measure and demonstrate this progress that I think is only going to enhance your ability to do what we heard largely from the community, which is how can we be more transparent, right? I think that comes from a lot of different perspectives, but I think the way your strategic plan has been written, if adopted as it's presented, offers you an opportunity to say, okay, maybe each board meeting we're going to spend some time looking at one of our goals and what are the measurements that demonstrate progress on those, or however you might do that. But it's a very tangible sort of document or tool to guide that work. Which I think is also another way to be transparent and engaged and accountable, which were all key things that came out of our feedback. So with that, again, thank you. I think it's a good plan. I think it's a solid plan. It's never going to be a perfect plan, but I appreciate everyone's hard work on it and would welcome any comments, feedback you have, revisions that you see based on reviewing how we came out of that session.
Anyone have any comments? I've got a few, but I'll let Kelly.
Thank you. Thanks, John. I like the streamlining for our strategic plan. I think that's very accessible to the whole community and to our board. I'm wondering if it would add value to call out the individual values under each goal, or like, I don't know, color code them or something in a final graphic designed layout where, you know, we're showing, like, we have our values and then we have our different goals, and it seems like the values just sort of hang out there, and I wonder if we should more directly tie them to each goal, whether, again, that's just through like some sort of color-coded square, you know, that people can reference in a legend, or if we just sort of list them. I don't know. I'll throw that idea out to see if it's helpful or useful to other people.
I just shot Meg, who's going to graphic design it to us, and she gave me the thumbs up. So yes.
Now, I will say this, Kelly. The one thing when we look at this plan, if you remember in our conversation, we talked about the mission and vision are up here. The values are the next layer down. So the only thing I would challenge you to think about is these values should show up in every one of the goals and strategies. So how you think about implementing that strategy, that's a great, I'm glad you called it out, because it's a great way to think about making this tool useful. When we say that we are going to continue to apply regulations to ensure all those residing in APCHA housing meet eligibility requirements, are we doing that through a quality process? Are we doing it in an efficient way? Are we doing it from a perspective of effectiveness as it's defined here? And are we challenging ourselves from an innovation perspective of, do we need to think differently? That we're not going to just say, well, that's how we've done it for these last 30 years. And so, but we're going to actually commit to saying, well, maybe we need to take a fresh look at this, which I know you guys are doing on a lot of different fronts right now. But that will be my only comment about that. But I think it's something we can look at.
Yeah, I love that. Or maybe there's just like, I don't know, a how do these apply? And you like literally just walk us through that example you gave, because I just want someone who's going to pick up the report as not part of this, you know, or the plan as not part of this conversation to do that exercise for themselves, or any new board member that comes on to know to apply them in that way. I think, I love that. I think that would suffice, but maybe we just build that in somehow.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
That was my comment.
Okay. Ward?
Yeah, I like the organization, and I think that every issue that that we've been working on really fits into one of these goals, compliance and strategies. I think that the language is broad enough to incorporate all of those, yet specific enough to be able to land those specific initiatives under a goal and a strategy. Well done.
So I did have a question about the dates on some of these. So I see some, we've got 26, we've got 28, some we've got 2030. You know, I mean, in particular, goal 3 community, sort of strategies A and B, we've got those are the furthest dates out as 30. I mean, we've paid for an affordability study, which is going to be done, it may already be done. It's got to be pretty close, Diane.
Red is on.
Red is on.
So we had a discussion with the regional housing needs assessment that that needed to get prioritized. A lot of the data work that's happening on that the housing needs assessment, which is required for Prop 123, and including application for grants for the lumberyard project, that's going to be done in June. A lot of the work that's going into that needs assessment will help the affordability study, but that got kicked out a little bit. So that's probably late 25, early 26 right now for the affordability piece specifically.
Okay. So that would give us 4 years to review it?
Well, that's, and sort of my I guess my concern, right, is okay, right, I thought I was, or under I think the initial discussions we had were sort of the expectation that would be done already at this point. Understand for a variety of reasons it's been pushed out. I guess, you know, my thought is we've got 26 on here, we've got 28 on here. In my mind, that data, and as soon as you get it, you need to get on it, right? And so I would just, again, I'm not going to be on the board forever. I won't be on the board in 2030. You know, maybe it's just obvious that as soon as that data comes in, that work needs to be prioritized because the data is fresh.
Right.
So that's one question that I had on that.
I think when staff put in those dates, and
Right.
if you want to change them, that's absolutely fine. I think we were just coming up with a scenario where if the city plan didn't work and we had to do it ourselves, we wanted to give ourselves the wiggle room. But, if it sounds like the city's process is on track, in which case, that is, we can definitely do it before
Well, I mean,
that. So,
this is the 5-year plan.
Right.
So like 2030 is sort of implied. And
Yeah.
So like I guess I sort of feel like it's either earlier or just take 2030 out.
okay.
That's my thought.
Yeah, I had the same inclination as I read through the different dates. I kind of kept saying to myself, wasn't this a 5-year plan? Aren't we just going to address this in 5 years? So isn't it
Right.
all 2030?
Over the 5 years.
Over the 5 years.
Yeah.
But I do see a public relations opportunity here in exceeding our expectations, in going faster than we said we would, in saying, hey, we told everyone 2030, but
Right.
we're so good that, like that might be something.
Well,
that
I mean,
actually would
it's like we've heard tonight, right? Housing is it's difficult, and so I mean, sooner is better, right? And obviously time being the constraint. So okay, and then the only other question that I had was just on strategy A under leadership. So just the regionally responsive housing policies. So I know we've had a lot of discussion on this board, and certainly we don't live or operate in a vacuum within the valley, but sort of also we have a ton of problems within APCHA that we need to address and sort of take the log out of your own eye before you start to talk about the splinter in your neighbors. So, sort of that would be my thought is, I mean, I wouldn't want that to be misconstrued as we need to spend a lot of time on regional housing, which certainly we need to coordinate with our regional partners. But again, we have a lot of issues within APCHA that need to be addressed first. So that was my comment there.
We could strike that with that word.
I'd like to push back a little bit on
Okay.
that.
You guys have that?
Because this is the leadership goal, and because because of that Wall Street Journal article, we're going to need to do some new things. I think we're going to need to break the precedent in certain ways. I know what you mean. Our job on this board is not to assess Garfield County, Eagle County housing opportunities. Is that basically what you're saying? Is that if we extend beyond the boundaries, or
no? What I am saying is that we have limited. We have, 15 meetings a year, 18 meetings a year, whatever the number is. We have limited time, and we have a host of problems with affordability, categories, capital reserves. I mean, just on and on down the list of things that we need to address. And what I'm simply saying is, it's my opinion that we need to work on solving those things and spending our time on those things before we go and spend time on regional issues. And so that's
what if we
that's my
reworded it? Actively support and advance proactive housing policies that benefit local and regional, or what if there was a different way to word it? Because we are increasingly going to come up into this Venn diagram of Pitkin County and Eagle County and Garfield County. And one of the regional responses that we're talking about today was, how do we respond to increased fire danger or increased insurability concerns or that kind of thing? That's how I read it in our retreat. So I can totally understand your position, but I'm a little bit worried about just striking it.
Well, when John and I go to CAS meetings and CML meetings around the state, we're constantly praised on the APCHA program. And I think that this could open up, people use APCHA around the state as a goal, as an example of the gold standard. And I think this could be interpreted that if housing authorities, the Western Mountain or other concerns, organizations across the region want to look for guidance, that we can be leaders, and instead of leading them or getting involved in their issues, being consultants or being available.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's
to help them.
I think that's totally fair and appropriate. I just want to make sure that this isn't misconstrued for something else. So I totally agree with that. I mean, and I think, we've heard that time and time again. I mean, this program, this is a pilot program, right? This whole thing started in 1978, and the reason that a lot of other housing authorities look to APCHA is because we're further down the road. So totally agree with that word.
I'd like to add on to Ward's comments that when we go to CAST meetings and CML meetings, I normally take several copies of our APCHA strategic housing plan I have never come home with them. They are always, I've never taken enough. Communities always are interested in picking up a free copy and learning what we know.
What does this regionally responsive mean to you guys in terms of our strategy for this goal of leadership? What does that mean for us as a board?
Well, for me, I think Aspen is not a bubble. And I think I agree with Carson in the respect that I think we need to focus on our pile first. But I think we should be working collaboratively with as many people as we can from here at least to Glenwood, if not a little farther, just to, again, more people you have involved, more ideas bubble to the surface.
For me, communication is a two-way street, and that being responsive means to reply and be helpful as best we can to other housing authorities to help bring them up, and for experiences and challenges that they're experiencing that might be something that we've overlooked. I know I met with somebody from Granby, and their housing authority there, and they were, they had some ideas that are right in parallel with our current ones are. But so if you have different groups of people working on the same issue, maybe you can both benefit from it.
So we,
Sorry. I was going to say, I mean, we could just reword it to say actively support and advance proactive and responsive housing policies to benefit Aspen, Pitkin County, and our region.
That works for me.
That works. I think that's good.
great.
Wordsmith.
Okay, you're appointed wordsmith.
Y'all were pretty impressive wordsmiths at our planning session. I was actually surprised. I had a moment where I questioned if we were getting out in 4 hours, but y'all,
We almost
y'all
didn't.
did
Well,
a great job.
It matters, right?
Yeah,
It matters.
it does. It does.
Words matter. Any other comments?
Good luck.
I mean, it's easy, right? We ought to be able to. We can solve all these problems.
Kelly has,
Kelly.
Yeah, I'll just let you guys know. Sorry. That I will bring this to my board next week. We have our board reports and share it with them, and I'm not sure they'll have a ton of feedback, but if they do, I'll pass it along before we adopt this in April.
Is Tom trying to get in?
I'm locked.
Well,
Is he telling you he's
well,
trying to
no,
get
but
in?
we've got an executive session.
He's probably gonna do it by phone because he's having issues.
I can unlock it, but he has not tried to join.
He's been having issues.
okay, if
with
anybody
his
has
phones.
any last minute suggestions, let me know as soon as you can. For example, Kelly, if your people really want to change something. If not, we'll try and bring you a graphically designed version. The intention was to finish this process under this board, so under the Howenstein administration. So next meeting, I'm going to give you a graphically designed version, which is done. So if you have additions, let me know as soon as you can, and we can either have a Zoom call or something else to get it done under Ward. If not, I'll just have it done, hopefully a nicely done version for the next meeting, if that works for everybody. Great.
One question just for clarification, and I'll go back and listen to this to make sure we get the wordsmith right on this last piece. But with the dates, a lot of times we'll put those dates on strategies so that it provides some direction from an annual plan perspective to the staff to say, okay, this is what the board cares about most right now. And so there's a couple ways you might think about that. One is that you just simply do take out any dates of like a 2030 and say this is a 5-year plan, and then you look to annual plans to say, okay, are we moving on all of these fronts and what's our timeline? The other is that we go back and like we did last week, and sort of say, from your standpoint, Matthew, what feels like the logical progression, and we get those specific dates. So just to get clarity, is there a preference on that?
My preference would be to eliminate set dates and with the assumption that this is a 5-year plan.
Okay.
That way we don't need to feel bad for missing them or advertise that we got them early. We can just say, hey, we were planning on doing this by 5 years from now, and we're early. Like, the date doesn't help us with the public relations, and it would, I think, only add added stress to staff if other contacts change. So that'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, perhaps this could be, Matthew can bring this up under his annual work plan where he can take bites out of the elephant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like it.
Okay. Cool. Great.
Okay. Kelly.
I will concur. My reason might be a little different just because I think, like, even my initial reaction, and maybe others will have it too, is like, oh my God, 2028? Like, you cannot wait until 2028 to figure this out. Like, everything in this space is very urgent. So I think it just should live under the umbrella of a 5-year plan, and, you know, we prioritize it through work plans annually.
Sounds great.
Yeah, as we move forward over the next 5 years, I wonder if identifying specific goals might be better to approach some of them instead of all of them at the same time. Some of them are going to take the whole 5 years and probably won't be achieved by then.
Yeah, and we'll try to highlight that in the annual work plan.
Yeah. Kelly, I did, John and I presented to our city council on Monday, we briefed them on what the draft is, and some of the members were thoughtful and respectful, and there were some undiplomatic and unthoughtful demeanors, so I hope that your board handles this more diplomatically than ours did.
Was it surrounding the word inclusion by any chance?
No, it wasn't. It was one member thought it was a total waste of time to go over this.
Well, our board are big fans of John Doherty, so I'll just tell them that, and it will assuage any critique.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, with that, I will make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6-40243 to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, sale of real, personal, or other property interest under CRS Section 24-6-4024A and CRS 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on questions pertaining to deed restrictions and related APCHA regulations.
I'll second.
Second from Scott. Roll call vote.
Okay.
Emily, hold on real quick. Emily, did you have a...
Sorry, I jumped the gun there. I was just hoping to stay for executive session, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yes, if you guys are okay with it,
Okay.
we'd like her to.
And so would amend that to include Emily. Anyone else that we need to include?
Jackie
doesn't need to be. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't need to stay.
yeah,
Okay.
just Emily.
Very good. So amending that to include Emily.
Great.
Roll call
Okay.
vote.
Kelly? Kelly?
Kelly
Did
froze.
she freeze? Did we lose her?
She's still there.
Okay.
Video just turned off.
Kelly?
Sorry, can you guys hear me? I think
Yes,
my
we
Yes.
can hear
is a
you.
little
We
weird.
can.
Okay, yeah, yes to go
Perfect.
into.
Okay,
Thank you.
Peter?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes. Okay, we'll take a short 5-minute break, clear the room, and shut
Recording
off
stopped.
GrassRoots. There are no further items on the agenda.